called out CNN's Kaitlan Collins on the network's bias. Let's watch.
You made press because you were on Stephen Colbert's show, and he said something like, you guys at CNN just report the news straight. And the crowd burst into laughter.
CNN is the place where both sides can watch. And
I'm talking about the people on CNN. And what I know what the conservative side of America thinks, and I don't blame them. They were just gushing about how great a speech it was. And I think she did fine. I didn't think it was as good as they were making it out to be. It does look like tokenism. It's kind of like the same as The View.
In a way, I feel like it's more insulting than what Trump does. And Trump says you're the enemy of the people, which is pretty bad. What she's kind of saying is, I don't need you. I'm not talking to you. You don't matter. You're not relevant anymore. To me, that's even worse than I hate you. It's like, I don't think about you.
I don't know if it's worse than denigrating the press on a daily basis, which is what Donald
for going after Caroline Leavitt. And honestly, we thought that would be enough to make Kaitlan pump the brakes. But nope. She doubled down. The CNN anchor is still, well, he wasn't about to let that slide. This time, the takedown was even more brutal. Pure fireworks. Lucky for you, we've got all the receipts. So, let's roll.
Continue to give Ukraine money and weapons if you're elected. What's the answer?
If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours. It'll be absolutely
Do you
over.
want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people.
Can I just follow up on that because that's a really important
Excuse me, let me just follow up.
there. Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians.
We'll get to the Bill Maher takedown in a second, but first, let's talk about why Maher, a guy who voted for Biden, suddenly sounds like he's siding with Republicans. You see, woke journalists have been setting traps for Trump long before he even won the November election. And leading the charge, none other than Kaitlan Collins. In that clip we just watched, the CNN anchor was fishing for a gotcha moment, something that could make Trump look unfit for office. The question, a trap. If Trump said he wanted Ukraine to win, he'd be accused of escalating World War III. If he backed Russia, he'd be smeared as a traitor. A lose-lose situation for the future American president. Kaitlan thought she had him cornered, but Trump isn't new to this game. He dodged the setup flawlessly, insisting he didn't want any more lives lost, whether Ukrainian or Russian. Smart move. But if there's one thing the woke mob hates, it's losing control of the narrative. And trust me, they weren't about to let this one slide. So they doubled down.
You held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
you
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to, you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Ooh, looks like Trump wasn't having any of Kaitlan Collins' antics, so he called her out right then and there. And honestly, he had every reason to. Instead of just asking a straight question, Kaitlan was rambling, layering in commentary, and wasting time, almost like she was filibustering her own interview. Classic CNN move. It was obvious what she was doing. This wasn't about getting answers. Her entire strategy was to trap Trump with convoluted no-win questions. Something designed to trip him up, make him stumble, or better yet, catch him in a soundbite that the media could run with for days. But Trump, he saw it coming a mile away. Like a seasoned fighter, he bobbed, weaved, and escaped like a fly, then turned around and landed a devastating counterpunch. One moment, Kaitlan thought she had him cornered. The next, she was the one left scrambling. Brutal. And honestly, this wasn't the first time she tried this. But as always, Trump flipped the script right in her face. But she kept coming. This time, she went for Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr.
Environment wasn't just created by Donald Trump.
Okay, but can I say, you can't blame, and everyone wants your dad to be safe. No one wants the threats against his life to happen, but you can't blame the media for those threats. There's been no evidence that's what drove those.
And allows people to have a platform to call someone literally Hitler every day for 9 years, it creates it. Okay. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's a fact.
But as you know, J.D. Vance once likened your dad to Hitler as well. He questioned if he was America's Hitler.
This heated exchange came right after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Trump Jr. didn't hold back. He blamed the media for fueling the attack by constantly comparing his father to Hitler. And he's right. For nearly a decade, the media has painted Trump as America's Hitler, a dictator hell-bent on destroying the country. They've despised him, mocked him, and demonized him, turning him into a monster. And did you catch that last line where Kaitlan Collins smugly claimed J.D. Vance once called Trump Hitler? And so what? Vance didn't have the media's power, influence, or massive reach, so his words never carried the same weight. Plus, he might have initially fallen for the media's anti-Trump narrative until he actually got to know Trump and realized he's nowhere near what they made him out to be. So, is it any surprise Bill Maher flared up? He sees the hypocrisy, the double standards, and the disastrous impact of media-driven smear campaigns. And this time, he wasn't letting them
appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden.
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course. You don't follow this.
Saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not. Bill Maher had it with the media's double standards. Kaitlan Collins and her colleagues have spent years crafting a one-sided narrative, painting Biden as a saint and Trump as the ultimate sinner. They're not just reporting the news, they're manufacturing it. Their obsession with keeping Democrats in power has led to relentless negative coverage of Trump, twisting every word, spinning every headline, and fueling the outrage machine 24/7. But when the scandals involve their guy, total silence. Take Hunter Biden, for example. The man's laptop leaks damning evidence of corruption, influence peddling, and shady foreign deals. Yet Kaitlan and her crew bury the story like it never happened. Imagine if Don Jr. had even 1/10 of Hunter's baggage. CNN would be running wall-to-wall coverage for weeks. And that's exactly why Bill Maher snapped. He sees the hypocrisy. He knows the media isn't just biased. They're activists in disguise. And this time, he wasn't about to let them off easy.
What you would have to call some sort of media suppression of Hunter Biden's computer right before the election.
Oh, no doubt.
Okay,
and the truth is, I still don't know what I think about that. And sometimes,
right.
But I mean, to actually parse everything in there and figure out just how dirty Biden Sr. is as a result of the information there.
Can I go to step two? But nothing really. It was common. It was the kind of sort of everyday graft that's sleazy, but doesn't affect the world. Probably.
Yes.
Hunter Biden sold his father's influence to get money. But Joe Biden himself would not give away our nuclear secrets to the Chinese. He's not, he has a soft spot for his son, his ne'er-do-well, stupid.
I mean, heard his voicemails to his Hunter.
So, like, Dad, I'm in a little bit of a jam. Could you just meet with the Chinese guy next week? It would mean a lot to me. And Joe would do it. And then and then Hunter would get the money for.
That's how bad things got when the Hunter Biden scandal exploded. And honestly, we're probably lucky Hunter didn't sweet-talk his dad into handing over nuclear codes in exchange for a quick payday. Given his track record, would anyone really be shocked? The man has sold access, influence, and who knows what else. But sure, let's all pretend Trump is the real villain here. The media bends over backwards to protect the Bidens, acting like Hunter is just a misunderstood guy with personal struggles. But let's face it, if Trump Jr. had half of Hunter's scandals, the media would call for his public execution. The hypocrisy is insane. They'll manufacture a scandal out of Trump breathing, yet when hard evidence of corruption, shady deals, and influence peddling drops on Hunter, crickets. And that's exactly why people like Bill Maher, who used to lean left, are finally calling out the nonsense. At some point, even lifelong Democrats have to admit, this isn't journalism, it's propaganda. And Kaitlan Collins was at the forefront. So given all these happenings, it wasn't surprising when Kaitlan finally joined Bill Maher for an interview. We all knew there would be fireworks, but no one expected this level of demolition.
Because you were on Stephen Colbert's show, and he said something like, you guys at CNN just report the news straight. And the crowd burst into laughter. Look, I'm on CNN now. I guess we're on it right now. I mean, they show this show the next night. I don't know how we get away with it with all the fucks, but they do. And all these dirty jokes. But I'm glad. And I'm a big rooter for CNN. But that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean, how do you guys think you are doing in that arena of like, this is a terribly divided country. We're not only politicized. A lot of people just hate the other side. And CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch. How do you think you're doing with that?
CNN is the place where both sides can watch. And I think, my show is evidence of that. We have lawmakers on from both parties. We'll have Elizabeth Warren on one night. We'll have
Bill Maher didn't hold back. He torched Kaitlan Collins and CNN for their so-called impartiality. He called out the network's fake attempts at balance, exposing how they occasionally allow a token conservative voice just to pretend they're fair. But the truth, CNN's version of impartiality is a joke. They'll bring on a Republican, usually someone who already hates Trump, let them speak for maybe 30 seconds, then spend the next 10 minutes tearing them apart. That's not balance. That's controlled opposition. Meanwhile, when it comes to Democrats, CNN acts like an extended PR team, running damage control and spinning scandals into minor inconveniences. Maher sees through the game. He knows that networks like CNN aren't in the business of journalism anymore. They're in the business of narrative control. They shape public opinion, decide which stories matter, and conveniently ignore anything that might hurt their political allies. And when someone dares to call them out, they cry misinformation and try to silence the criticism. No wonder Bill snapped. The hypocrisy was just too much to ignore.
I'm from a very red state. I have a very conservative family, a lot of them who are Trump voters. They watch my show every night, and I think they know that they can trust me, that, you know, we call bullshit on every side, not just whatever leaning our audience may be. And I think that's something that people actually want more.
Dear Kaitlan, just because you hail from a red state and have Republican family members doesn't magically erase CNN's blatant bias. Newsflash, your personal background doesn't make you an impartial journalist. CNN is still pushing its predictable left-wing narratives, and no amount of "but my family is Republican" is going to change that. For all you know, your family tunes in out of obligation, not agreement. Maybe they're just showing familial support, the same way parents sit through their kids' off-key school recital. That doesn't mean they're buying what you're selling. Let's face it, if CNN were actually balanced, you wouldn't have to bring up your personal life as some kind of credibility shield. The facts speak for themselves. CNN isn't fooling anyone. They downplay Democratic scandals, push every anti-Trump narrative they can find, and then pat themselves on the back for being fair, because they let a Republican talk once in a blue moon. And Bill Maher, he sees it. That's why he called you out. Interestingly, Maher isn't the only one calling her out. Check out what Megyn Kelly had to say.
Sorry, but she's only a star with leftists. And the fact that she has some roots in Alabama does not make her a fair and balanced reporter. I will submit to the record, her biggest sin is not that she is biased, though she is. It's that she's boring. She's extremely boring with no personality. I have a pro tip for her. Smile. Try smiling every once in a while. Try not to be, like, in your delivery, such a cold-hearted all the time, because it gives people nothing to bond to. You can be a tough interviewer and also have some...
Megan nailed it. Kaitlan Collins can't outrun the biased tag no matter how hard she tries. She's as left-leaning as CNN's editorial board at a Biden fundraiser. So the sooner she drops this unbiased journalist act, the better. Nobody's buying it. But you know what else Megan got, right? The pro tip she threw Kaitlan's way. Because honestly, Kaitlan desperately needs to smile more and ditch that perpetual smirk. It's like she's allergic to warmth. You can be a tough interviewer without looking like you just swallowed a lemon. There's a fine line between sharp and cold-hearted. And right now, Kaitlan's walking around like a human ice cube. You don't have to like your guests, but maybe, just maybe, try not to look like you're plotting their downfall mid-interview. Megyn Kelly gets it, Bill Maher gets it, and judging by the ratings, the audience gets it too. Maybe it's time Kaitlan finally takes the hint. Or maybe Ben Shapiro can help.
Head on Kaitlan Collins from CNN, obviously talking about how terrible Trump is and what a terrible job he's doing and how Kamala Harris has all the momentum and all of that sort of thing. But that's not the interesting part of the clip. The interesting part of the clip is that Stephen Colbert says, in perfect seriousness, with a straight face, that the legacy media are objective. That CNN is objective, and listen to the reaction of the crowd. Again, this is a crowd who opts into viewing The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, which means that they are all on the left.
Trump has kind of been thrown on his heels by this, and he's not really sure how to go after Vice President Harris. He knew his attack lines on President Biden. He really has struggled with how to go after someone who's 20 years younger than him, who is a different gender, a different race. It's kind of been this moment where he has not been able to coalesce around a single attack line.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes a... I know
that's supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
Okay, that is an incredible admission, number one, by Stephen.
Even the left is tired of pretending CNN is neutral. They know the network leans their way, and they probably love the special treatment. It's not about journalism anymore. It's about narrative control. That's exactly what Ben Shapiro was getting at. CNN isn't fooling anyone. The people who watch it expect the bias. They want it. They don't tune in for fair reporting. They tune in to hear what they already believe repeated back to them. And CNN, they're more than happy to oblige. They push anti-Trump hysteria, bury Democrat scandals, and call it news. But here's the irony. Deep down, even left-wing viewers know it's all theater. They just don't care. As long as CNN keeps serving up stories that make them feel morally superior, they'll keep watching. And that's why Bill Maher and Ben Shapiro both see the problem. When even longtime liberals are rolling their eyes at CNN's fake neutrality, you know the network has lost control of the narrative. Meanwhile, Kaitlan, the supposed neutral journalist, is busy fishing for gotcha moments with Karoline Leavitt.
Mitchell made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night.
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus, many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the President questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
But isn't it retaliatory in nature is the argument, because the reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how
right to the Oval Office, unless, of course, you're the President of the United States. Access isn't a given. It's a privilege. You'd think Kaitlan Collins would understand that, but no. Because if there's one thing about the woke mob, it's that they feel entitled to everything, and they lose it when they don't get their way. Trump's presidency made that crystal clear. The media wanted unlimited access, but when they disrespected him, ignored his directives, and acted like they were in charge, Trump shut the door, and rightfully so. That's exactly what Karoline Leavitt reminded them. The president decides who steps into the Oval Office, not entitled journalists, not mainstream media elites who think their press passes make them royalty. But that's the problem with today's media. They don't just want access, they want control. And when they don't get it, they throw a tantrum and cry, attacks on democracy. Meanwhile, the actual attack on democracy is a media that refuses to respect the office, unless, of course, a Democrat is sitting behind the desk. And guess who recently joined the attack on Leavitt and the White House? Former Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. Listen to Leavitt's brilliant clapback.
Karine Jean-Pierre, who presided over many novel press access restrictions, criticized the recent changes to the press pool made by your office. She said in an interview, quote, what we're looking at is what North Korea is doing. What's your response to that? And can you say anything to allay concerns that unfavorable coverage will be punished in this new press pool system?
I think that's the same individual who said from this podium numerous times that the commander-in-chief was mentally and physically up for the job, which we knew was a lie. Many people in this room knew it was a lie. Many of you were admonished for asking questions about that truth. So when it comes to truth and transparency, this administration, this White House is setting the example. This president is taking far more questions than his predecessor, Joe Biden, did on a daily basis, and that will...
Jean-Pierre must have selective amnesia because she seems to forget that she presided over some of the most restrictive press access policies in recent history. Yet now she has the audacity to call out Karoline Leavitt for limiting access to the Oval Office? The hypocrisy is off the charts. This is classic left-wing double standards. When they shut down access, it's necessary for security or protecting democracy. But when a Republican does it, suddenly it's an authoritarian crisis. Give us a break. And let's not forget the real reason for those restrictions under Biden. The man was clearly mentally unfit for office, and everyone saw it. Yet Jean-Pierre stood at the podium gaslighting America, telling us Biden was sharp as ever, while he was literally getting lost on stage. Leavitt's press restrictions weren't about hiding a weak leader. They were about maintaining order. Unlike Jean-Pierre, she isn't scrambling to cover up an administration that's falling apart. That's the real difference. So yes, Karine, sit this one.
The Democrat Party, the mainstream media still doesn't get it. Last night, MSNBC's Nicole Wallace disgustingly looped in a 13-year-old boy with brain cancer into an attack on the president over January 6th. And CNN's first chyron out of the speech called it divisive. President Trump wasn't divisive. The Democrats were. And CNN was proven wrong by their own viewers, 69% of whom, in a post-speech poll, said they had a positive reaction to the president's speech. It's sad and frankly pathetic that Democrats and liberals in the legacy media continue to allow their hatred for the president to override their love for our country. But nevertheless, the president will continue to unify this nation through policies that are grounded in common sense and that uplift all Americans.
It's pathetic that legacy media puts its hatred for Trump above its supposed love for the country. From the moment he announced his campaign, they've worked overtime to paint him as the villain. And now that he's in office, they're not just reporting the news, they're setting traps, twisting narratives, and launching coordinated attacks on him and his administration. But here's the kicker. The people aren't buying it anymore. Viewers are waking up to the fakery, and they're making their voices heard. Poll after poll shows that Americans are done with the media's obsessive Trump derangement syndrome. They're tired of the same old woke narratives, the one-sided reporting, and the manufactured outrage. And legacy media, they're panicking. Because when you lose the trust of the people, you lose everything. And what are Bill Maher's final words for the likes of Kaitlan and CNN?
And finally, new rule, someone must tell the usual suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging, not keep digging. Talk about doubling down on what got you fucked in the first place. Even the one concession I've heard a few people on the losing side offer, that liberals should stop saying the Trump voters are stupid, comes with a kind of unspoken parentheses. We know they are stupid.
Yep, Maher's advice is spot on. Kaitlan and CNN need to put down the shovel because at this point, they're just digging their own grave. Their obsession with taking down Trump is exactly what got him reelected in the first place. The more they demonize him, the stronger his support grows. You'd think they'd learn by now, but nope. Same tired tactics, same disastrous results. If CNN wants to salvage even a shred of credibility, they should stop with the endless hit pieces and start acting like the neutral media outlet they pretend to be. But let's face it, that's not happening. Because CNN isn't about journalism anymore. It's about narrative control. They don't report the news, they manufacture it. They don't cover Trump fairly. They weaponize every story against him. And instead of focusing on actual issues, they're too busy playing political operatives. So Maher's right, stop digging. But knowing CNN, they'll probably just grab a bigger shovel. At the end of the day, the media's obsession with Trump has backfired spectacularly. They tried to destroy him, but all they did was make him stronger. They pushed fake narratives, ignored real scandals, and acted like activists instead of journalists. And now, the people see right through liberals are tired of the bias, the double standards, and the relentless Trump derangement syndrome. CNN has burned its credibility, and Kaitlan Collins is just another cog in the propaganda machine. But Trump isn't the problem. The media is. Their lies, their arrogance, their refusal to report fairly. That's what's driving people away. And if they don't change course, they'll keep digging themselves into irrelevance. So CNN, maybe take Bill Maher's advice and stop digging. Because America, they're done listening. And that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed our frank commentary, then hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos such as this. Thanks for watching.